Act 2. Death brings destruction. Macbeth's mind remained troubled. He wondered if he could really kill Duncan. What if it went wrong? What if Duncan survived? Or someone found out that Macbeth was the murderer? But Lady Macbeth was insistent. He had to murder the king. Macbeth must become king, then she would be queen. Macbeth's home was filled with guests that evening. Duncan had arrived with his sons Malcolm and Donalbain, as well as his personal guards. Banquo also arrived with other comrades from battle and his own two sons. Lady Macbeth had laid out a lavish feast for her guests. None of them had any idea of their host's wicked plan. Every now and then, Lady Macbeth excused herself and slipped off to see Duncan's guards, serving them more and more food and drink. "You have worked hard for your master," she gushed. "You should share in the treats too." And so the charmed guards ate and drank until their bellies and brains were full. They soon fell fast asleep. Macbeth waited until midnight, and then his guests had retired to their rooms. Duncan had also gone to his room, unaware that his guards were sleeping next door. As soon as Duncan's head hit the pillow, he fell asleep, which meant he didn't stir when Macbeth entered the room armed with a dagger in each hand. While Duncan snored loudly, Macbeth raised his daggers. With one swift movement, the king was dead. Horrified, Macbeth stumbled into his bedroom. I have done it," he gasped. "But you're still got the daggers with you," Lady Macbeth hissed. "You have to take them back to the guards, or it won't look as if they did it." She was calm and focused, while Macbeth jumped at the slightest sound. "I can't face going back," Macbeth said, looking terrified. "You coward!" Lady Macbeth cried. "Give them to me. I'll do it." Alone in his room, Macbeth bitterly regretted his actions. He couldn't get the picture of Duncan's dead body out of his head. "What's that?" Macbeth jumped out as he heard a noise. There was someone knocking at the front door. "Someone come," Macbeth whispered as his wife came back into the room. "Someone must have found that I have done. They are here to get me." "Don't be ridiculous," Lady Macbeth replied. "Calm down and see who's at the door." The visitors turned out to be Macduff and Lennox. They wanted to see the king. As Macduff went to the king's chamber, Macbeth stayed talking to Lennox, desperately trying to keep calm. No!
Macbeth's scream rang out. What's wrong? Macbeth asked, pretending he had no idea.
The king has been killed! Macduff wailed. Wake everyone and bring them here! News of the king's death quickly spread to everyone in the castle. Macbeth knew he had to act fast. Where are the guards? He called, racing to their room. Look, murderers! The daggers are still in their hands. Once more, Macbeth took both the daggers in his hands. He stabbed the sleeping guards until they too were dead. By now, Donalbain and Malcolm had been told the news of their father's death. I have killed the guards who murdered your father, Macbeth said as he stood before them, covered in blood. What terrible things have happened here? Cried Lady Macbeth as she came into the room. And so, as to convince the guests of her shock, Macbeth's wife pretended to faint. Help her, Banquo said. Come, we must meet to decide what should be done, said Macbeth as his wife was carried away. But the king's sons refused to join them. Fearing for their own lives, they fled the castle. Macbeth continued to lie as he began to organize the king's burial. Macduff sat with Ross, talking about the horrors that had taken place that night. Where have Malcolm and Donalbain gone? Macduff asked. And why? Isn't that suspicious? Perhaps they murdered the guards to kill the king. Ross scratched his chin. It's certainly strange. And now that the princes are gone, the throne must be fall to Macbeth. He's already shown us his leadership on the battlefield. Now he must be the king. Macduff nodded. Come on, he said. Let's leave Macbeth to his duties. This house is full of horror and sadness. If we stay here too long, we may also fall out and stop. Being friends, let's go. And after that terrible night, dawn broke on a new Scottish king, Macbeth. End of Act 2.